Goemon Ishikawa XIII, Jūsan-daime Ishikawa Goemon, is a fictional character created by Monkey Punch for his manga series Lupin III, which debuted in Weekly Manga Action on August 10, 1967. Goemon is the 13th generation of renegade samurai, a descendant of the historical figure Ishikawa Goemon. He is usually quiet, and participates in Arsène Lupin III's exploits less frequently than Daisuke Jigen, Lupin's gang. In the original manga, Goemon first appears as a very dangerous enemy of Lupin in Chapter 28. Lupin attempts to steal Goemon's master's alchemic formula through infiltration of Goemon's clan, but his cover is blown by Fujiko Mine, who was Goemon's girlfriend at the time. Goemon makes many attempts to kill Lupin over the next several installments, making attempts ranging from hiring assassins as skilled as Daisuke Jigen himself, to entering the service of 3 martial arts masters, to planting bombs in Lupin's belongings. However, he later decides that he could learn more working for Lupin than against him, and rather abruptly switches his allegiance. His position at Lupin's side is cemented when Lupin wins the government's case against the man who killed Goemon's uncle, allowing Goemon to take his revenge as brutally and publicly as he wants without having to break into prison to do so. By the events of the second manga series, Lupin trusts Goemon implicitly, and Goemon reciprocates. When a rival of Lupin's captures and hideously tortures Goemon, Goemon refuses to even respond to his interrogation, except to say that Lupin would find him, and allow him to take revenge. Lupin then captures and seduces his rival's wife, and uses the information gleaned thereof to release Goemon, who slays his captor with Jigen's help. In the original anime, Goemon's relationship to Lupin starts off more professional than close friendship. By the second anime series, Goemon has developed a true loyalty to Lupin. However, he easily gets annoyed by Lupin's antics, especially Lupin's infatuation with women, Fujiko Mine in particular. He will occasionally oppose Lupin directly when Lupin's jobs or actions do not agree with his morals. He has even promised that the last act he will take with Lupin is delivering his death blow. However, Goemon doesn't hesitate to help Lupin in serious situations, and readily assists him anytime Lupin works for a just cause. However, in 1978's The Mystery of Mamo, originally titled simply Lupin III, he claims that he helps Lupin simply so he can keep his vow to kill him himself. Goemon has a much more amicable relationship with Jigen. Goemon sees Jigen as a fellow honorable warrior, while Jigen sees Goemon as a trustworthy foxhole buddy, and the two are frequently paired together during jobs, and usually help keep Lupin in check. On the odd occasion, and increasingly in recent years, Goemon will ally himself with Fujiko, in spite of his distrust of her. Other relationships. Goemon has 2 members of his clan appear, but both use their talents to satisfy their greed, as he once said, Kikayo and Sadachiyo the Scorpion. In 1987's The Plot of the Fuma clan, Goemon nearly marries into the Suminoa clan by marrying Murasaki Suminoa, the daughter of one of his instructors. The engagement eventually falls through, because at the end Goemon feels he is unworthy of being her husband, though he and Murasaki part on friendly terms. In 1994's Burn, Zentetsuken, Kikayo, a childhood friend of Goemon's, returns to aid him. She eventually becomes his love interest in the movie and travels with him to get the dragon figurine, which Lupin found from what's left of the Titanic. Later, Kikayo fakes her death, so she can turn on Goemon, steal the dragon figurine and side with Chen Zhenshang. Kikayo helps Chen to uncover the secret of the dragon figurine, and uses its alloy to make an unstoppable stealth fighter. However, Goemon uses his sword and skills to slice the fighter 3 times in the same spot. It is destroyed, and Kikayo falls into the very same spot the Titanic sunk, resting with her grandfather, who stole the dragon figurine in the first place. Sadachiyo the Scorpion appears in 1996's The Secret of Twilight Gemini. He is a highly trained assassin who was hired by a rogue faction within the Celtic tribe, causing problems for both Lupin and Goemon throughout the special Sadachiyo duels with Goemon to the death in the end. Sadachiyo's sword broke the tip of Goemon's Zentetsuken, only for the tip to land in Sadachiyo's back and pierce his heart. Skills. Goemon Ishikawa XIII is a lifelong adherent of a number of core Japanese martial arts, particularly Kinjutsu, Karate, Jujutsu, and Iaido. His training gives him many extraordinary talents, that is underwater breath control for diving without an aqualung, and a limited understanding of the supernatural. He can easily best several trained thugs in unarmed combat, and catch an arrow, or throw a dagger with his bare hands. His trademark skill is near superhuman speed, enabling him to slice bullets in half, before they make contact. It should be mentioned that, despite the deadliness of his weapon, Goemon will never take a human life, unless challenged to a duel, and even then, only if the opponent reveals a dishonorable nature. Although his sword Zentetsu, which is able to cut through anything including metal, gives him a virtually unbeatable advantage, it is Goemon's skill with the weapon that proves more valuable in a battle. Goemon, like all the Lupin gang, is also talented at disguises and impersonation, speaks several languages, and is a trained driver and pilot, although he prefers being a passenger rather than taking a driver's seat. Goemon's sword. Goemon is an incredibly gifted martial artist, both in hand-to-hand and melee combat. However, he is best known, and usually employed for his skills in Ide and the famous katana, in a shirasaya, that he uses. His sword goes by the name of Ryuzi, shooting star in the manga, but it is better known as its animated incarnation, Zentetsuken, iron cutting sword. The katana can cut anything and everything, airplanes, cars, tanks, skyscrapers, and even lightning, and a meteorite have been sliced apart by the blade. Its keenness has never been so proven than in the surreal moment, when Goemon cut the film his animated world was drawn upon, effectively slashing his entire universe in twain. Objects cut by Goemon will fall apart a couple of seconds after he rends them, usually after he has snapped Zentetsuken completely into its sheath. Goemon's speed and skill are such that he can block machine gun fire with the blade. To Goemon's distaste, most occasions require Zentetsuken to cut unworthy inanimate objects, rather than his using the sword for its design purpose, namely in battle against a suitably talented opponent. Zentetsuken has had a number of origin stories over the years, including having been made from the metal of a fallen meteor, or made from a special alloy passed down through Goemon's clan. And his first TV appearance, the sword is described as being forged from 3 famous or mystical Japanese swords. A common explanation for its existence is still argued, but its strength and sharpness are constants in every Lupin III incarnation. However, Zentetsuken has also been known to chip, or break when applied to a particularly tenacious surface. Usually its failure indicates circumstances are the worst possible for Goemon and the rest of Lupin's gang. It is revealed in the second anime series that Zentetsuken has at least one known weakness: it cannot cut Kanayaku gel, because it keeps getting stuck in it. The second series also gives Zentetsuken a more mystical ability. On a few occasions, the blade acquires a shadow, showing death lurks nearby for Lupin and his gang. Likewise, when the shadow disappears, it shows that the danger has passed. In one episode the sword lost its cutting power, something that happens every 100 years. The only way to return the power to the sword is to make a kind of wedding celebration with the female version of Zentetsuken. This female sword is smaller than the male one, but with the same cutting power. At the end of the ritual celebration, Zentetsuken regained its power. Unfortunately, the female sword fell into a pool of magma. Zentetsuken is also the source of Goemon's most famous catchphrase, "Once again I have cut a worthless object," which he says whenever he uses Zentetsuken to do something spectacular that he nonetheless considers mundane. This has been referenced many times in other manga and anime, and has become something of a joke within Lupin itself. In Da Capo of Love, Fujiko's Unlucky Days, Lupin even tells Goemon, "No one is better at cutting worthless objects than you." Personality. Goemon has an extreme sense of pride in his abilities, and when he cannot accomplish a task, feels shame and remorse afterward. Breaking Zentetsuken, as he did in a battle with Flinch and Lupin vs the clone, is a common cause of shame. He will also show chagrin when he succumbs to his weaknesses, as when a woman ran off with his sword in 1998's Memories of the Flame, Tokyo Crisis. On many of these occasions, Goemon will leave to meditate, or further train to rid himself of his weak points. Goemon shows allegiance to Japanese culture as strictly as his traveling and unique lifestyle can allow. He dresses in a hakama and fundoshi, and prefers wearing his hair long and somewhat unevenly cut. He is a firm believer in Buddhism and Shinto. Although he may toast with champagne, his drink of choice is sake. He has been seen multiple times wearing a sandogasa, Goemon's most often seen pastime is meditation. Even under threat, or when locked up, he is typically seated on the floor in a state of mental seclusion so deep he cannot be budged from his position. Other activities Goemon favors include fishing, attending no theater, and participating in martial arts competitions. Although typically a person of mellow aloofness, Goemon has been seen exploding with frustration, as well as admiring beautiful women, and, very rarely, screaming in fright. Such out-of-character moments are usually treated as humorous takes. If Goemon has a true weakness, it is that he's even more weak with women than Lupin is. He readily trusts any woman who seems superficially trustworthy or innocent, often landing him in much trouble. At the same time, he fears sultry women will distract him from his training, and tends to blush or flee when any woman puts him in a less than modest situation. Goemon also is very bad with money, as well as falling for any scam that states will show the path of enlightenment, and constantly charges Lupin for his services in some fashion. In $1 money wars he gives it to the female leader of a cult, who promptly runs off with it. Commonly thought to be just a samurai, an episode of the second TV series, Goemon's Revenge has Goemon visiting his Iga ninja sensei. This episode depicts him as having had the training of a master ninja, perhaps giving some reason behind his willingness to find thievery as an acceptable practice, in spite of his samurai ways. Origins. Goemon is unique to the series as he was the only character not there from the beginning. Monkey Punch, in an interview featured on the American Dead or Alive DVD release, mentioned he added Goemon later as he felt the manga needed a more Japanese character. There are 3 different versions of the meeting and joining. Prior to his first appearance in the manga, a character named Kuroshi appeared in the first volume. Kuroshi strongly resembled Goemon in appearance, but preferred using firearms, and was killed at the end of the chapter he was introduced in. Goemon very closely resembles actor C.G. Miyaguchi's character, stern master swordsman Kiz, and the universally acclaimed film Seven Samurai, down to even Miyaguchi's famous elongated face. In the original manga, Goemon is targeted by Lupin to steal the secrets of how to make his sword, or in the American release, how to make gold. In later issues, Goemon is sent by his masters to kill Lupin, but after failing many times, he decides Lupin can teach him more, and joins his side. In episode 5 of the first anime series, Goemon is tricked into going against Lupin by Old Man Momochi, who wants them both out of the way, so he can claim the title of world's greatest assassin. The two both outwit him and survive. 2 episodes later, Lupin attempts to steal the sword formula. After being outsmarted, Goemon gets revenge by slicing Lupin's car in half. After both break down into Homeric laughter over the situation, Goemon decides to join the gang. The 2 episodes pull in several elements from the manga stories. In the 2002 TV special episode 0, First Contact, Goemon met Lupin when he was searching for the Zentetsuken, the only sword he felt worthy of his abilities. Lupin, Jigen, and Fujikawa all served as adversaries until being forced to work together to survive. There are hints that parts of the story may be made up at the end of the special, however, so not everything can be taken as definite. Reception. In 2007, Oricon magazine polled readers on which characters they would most like to see in their own series. Goemon appeared in the number 8 position on the female readers' polls, and 7th place in the combined poll. In the Love's Inner anime, the swordswoman Machoko uses signature line, "I have cut a useless object," sometimes translated as "that was not worthy of my blade," after using her sword to fend off a flock of shady-looking spiritualists in an episode. In the 10th chapter of the manga XXX Harlock, Yuko cuts a laptop with a bat, inscribed with the name of Goemon's blade, and says his signature phrase. In episode 3 of Up It, Sig swings her rifle like a sword, and cut various targets' heads off, saying once again, "I have shot a worthless object," saying once again, "I have shot a worthless object," saying once again,